Hello everyone. Welcome to Uncensored Secret Files. For most people, the birth of twins is an incredibly joyful and surprising event. After all, the probability is quite small, something you might encounter but cannot seek. At the same time, it's something we cannot control, like opening a mystery box. But some scientists didn't see it that way. They believed that if they could manipulate the twin birth rate and allow more superior genes to be inherited, it would be wonderful. Therefore, they began conducting inhumane experiments on human subjects. The man before you is Josef Mengele, a scholar of racial genetics and heredity. He was also an SS officer of Nazi Germany and chief physician at the Auschwitz concentration camp. Everyone knows about Auschwitz to some extent. Yes, it's where Nazi Germany conducted massacres and genocide during World War II. The doctors here ostensibly managed medical hygiene for the camp and prisoners, but in reality, they had only one task: killing people and conducting human experiments. Mengele's mentor was Fischer, a racial geneticist who was an extreme advocate of eugenics. We've mentioned eugenics before, haven't we? Simply put, people with good genes should reproduce more, while those with inferior genes should reproduce less or not at all. When it comes to countries that played with eugenics most zealously, Nazi Germany stands first, with no one daring to claim second place. During World War II, Nazi Germany launched the Lebensborn program. They believed the Aryan race was superior to all others. They needed to eliminate defective genes from outside sources while increasing the Aryan birth rate, thereby nurturing more pure-blooded Aryans. Therefore, they conducted forced sterilization nationwide on disabled people and mental patients, or gave them mercy deaths. Meanwhile, they searched for pure Aryan women in occupied European countries, had Nazi officers mate with them, and produce perfect Aryan offspring. They even established breeding farms across Europe, where unmarried Aryan women would give birth like production lines. These children were forcibly separated from their mothers and given to Nazi party member families to raise, with the goal of training them to become future Nazi elites. As Fischer's student, Mengele naturally strongly supported this Nazi racial eugenics theory. He believed that humans, like dogs, have bloodlines. If someone can breed good dogs in a laboratory, I can breed good humans. Mengele's main research focus was twins. He hoped to discover the genetic characteristics of twins, then use artificial methods to increase the twin birth rate and nurture more superior Aryans. With this ideology, in 1943 he arrived at Auschwitz concentration camp and began his hellish crimes. Besides managing medical hygiene, he was also responsible for deciding prisoners' fates, classifying them, determining who was suitable for labor and who should be sent to the gas chambers. Most doctors in the camp disliked this work, but Mengele was the exception. He was always enthusiastic, smiling, humming melodies, with elegant gestures, enjoying the pleasure of sorting prisoners. Why? Because he could select suitable subjects for experiments. Twin children. Whenever he saw suitable lab rats, he would introduce himself as Uncle Mengele, holding bread and candy before the children, smiling and asking, "Do you want some candy?" Whether they answered yes or no, children who met his requirements were taken away, becoming Mengele's twins. He deliberately built a kindergarten and barracks in the camp for the children, different from other prisoners. Here, the children received extra food and better living conditions. They even felt Mengele was like a kind uncle, but in reality, his kindness had ulterior motives. Everything was to prevent experimental subjects from being influenced by external factors, to make them more obedient, and to conveniently take them to the laboratory for research. Mengele examined the twin children's physiques twice a week. He would strip them naked, observe carefully, and look for differences between the twins. He injected bacteria into one twin, causing viral infection. Then he would draw blood from this child and inject it into the other twin, trying to prove the disease was hereditary rather than environmental. Many twin pairs died from infections during this process. Mengele also had a horrific experiment called the eye experiment. He was very interested in eye color because pure Aryans had blonde hair and blue eyes. He hoped that by changing eye color, he could create Aryans with appropriate characteristics. Therefore, he once found 36 children and injected blue pigment into their brown eyes, trying to create artificial blue-eyed humans. These children cried in pain, enduring torment, and eventually went blind in both eyes. Afterward, Mengele removed their eyeballs, placed them in jars for collection, and labeled them for later research. A survivor recalled seeing a wall in Mengele's laboratory displaying eyes he had collected: yellow, green, blue, and purple. They were like butterfly specimens fixed there. However, this wasn't even the most cruel. The most horrific thing was that Mengele once sewed two 4-year-old twins back to back, artificially creating conjoined humans. The scene was like a mad scientist in a horror movie creating unspeakable monsters. This twin pair didn't live long. Due to festering wounds, they died from gangrene. Additionally, he particularly enjoyed performing experiments without anesthesia. For example, unnecessary amputations on twins, removing internal organs, or spinal taps. If children survived these inhumane experiments, they would be killed. If one twin died unexpectedly, the other would also be killed. The corpses would be dissected by him for convenient comparison. A prisoner assistant named Nisli once witnessed Mengele's killing process. One night, Mengele placed a child on the operating table and injected a sedative to make them sleep. Then he aimed at the child's heart position and injected 3 ml of chloroform. Gently pushing the syringe, the child died immediately. In this way, he killed 14 pairs of twins in one night. Another time, Mengele argued with another doctor in the camp about a diagnosis. He believed a twin pair had tuberculosis. The other doctor said no. Angry, he went alone to the twins' barracks. An hour later, he returned and told the other doctor, "You were right. There was indeed no tuberculosis. I killed and dissected that twin pair and found no lung problems." The calmness and indifference when saying this sufficiently proved his numbness to murder. A survivor named Pearl recalled seeing Mengele leading SS soldiers in the camp to dig a large pit and fill it with gasoline. After igniting it, dozens of trucks loaded with children backed up and dumped them into the pit. Countless children screamed and tried to climb out, but were pushed back down with sticks by Nazi officers. According to statistics, Mengele experimented on about 1,500 twin pairs, with fewer than 100 pairs surviving. These survivors also suffered permanent physical illnesses from the experiments. Besides twins, other prisoners were also poisoned by him. To test the Air Force's survival ability in high-pressure environments, he stuffed prisoners into pressure chambers and recorded their respiratory data. Many prisoners died from suffocation or burst lungs. To test pilots' survival ability after parachuting into cold sea water, he threw prisoners into ice water, soaking them for over 5 hours until they froze to death. To test the maximum voltage humans could withstand, he became an electric shock sadist, electrocuting prisoners. Additionally, Mengele was particularly interested in dwarfs and deformed people, viewing them as degenerate humans. He injected drugs into these people, drew blood, extracted teeth, or took X-rays trying to cure them. Once, Mengele discovered a hunchback father and his deformed son. Without a word, he killed them, then threw the bodies into boiling water to cook them, separating flesh from bone to study their bone deformities. He believed this was evidence that Jewish and Gypsy bodies were far inferior to Aryans. They couldn't resist various diseases. Their bodies were degenerating. According to concentration camp statistics, The number of people he killed directly or indirectly exceeded 400,000. These prisoners weren't human in his eyes because once they entered the concentration camp, they were already dead. For the dead, he needed no sympathy or empathy. They would sooner or later be sent to the gas chambers. Mengele believed he was merely utilizing their medical value before they died. Because of this cold and heartless style, he was dubbed the Angel of Death. Angel referred to his constant smile and benevolent, gentle mask, but beneath the mask was a demonic face symbolizing death, like someone with a split personality, making people both confused and terrified. You could never see his extremely cruel true face. The most infuriating thing is that such a devil was never punished. In 1945, the Soviet Red Army approached Auschwitz. Mengele and other Nazi officers fled with research documents and went into hiding. In June of the same year, this military unit was captured by American forces. Usually, SS soldiers had distinctive blood-type tattoos that could identify them. But Mengele had long refused the tattoo, so his identity wasn't discovered. Thanks to this, Mengele used a false name to pass American inspection and was released in August. This Nazi devil thus escaped military trial. For the following decades, under false identities, he lived freely in South American countries. His infamy spread throughout Western countries, becoming the #1 wanted Nazi criminal. Police from multiple countries formed investigation teams to track him down, but found nothing. Some said he was dead, others said he was alive. Various rumors added mystery to this Nazi devil story. A historian named Camarasa discovered a strange phenomenon. In Brazil, there's a small town called Cândido Godoy, where the twin birth rate reaches 10%. On average, out of every 100 newborns, there are 10 pairs of twins, while other regions only have 1.8%. Most people here are descendants of German Aryans. Investigation revealed that after fleeing in 1963, Mengele had visited this place many times, calling himself a veterinarian, examining or delivering babies for local women. Soon after, the number of twins there skyrocketed. Camarasa speculated that Mengele later used this place as an experimental base and successfully completed Nazi racial eugenics experiments. However, geneticists scorned this hypothesis. They believed the high twin birth rate here had nothing to do with Mengele, but was due to long-term genetic isolation and the result of inbreeding. If this wasn't true, where did Mengele ultimately go? Was he still alive? In fact, after decades of international police cooperation and investigation, he was dead. In 1979, Mengele and some friends went on vacation in Brazil, where he suddenly drowned due to a heart attack. His body was buried locally under the name Gerhard. But news of his death was known only to family and friends. Having previously helped hide his identity, police still thought he was on the run. Not until 1990, through exhumation and DNA testing, did police confirm the deceased was indeed Mengele. This was good news, but also bad news. The good news was that this devil was finally dead. The bad news was, why did it take so long? And his death was too easy. According to his son Rolf, his father never showed remorse for what he had done. He felt he had never harmed anyone, only acted according to Nazi ideology. This mindset wasn't limited to Mengele, but existed in the minds of all Nazi devils. It also applies to Japanese Imperial War criminals. Before Mengele entered Auschwitz, he had never killed anyone. His behavior seemed normal, but once inside he transformed into a cold, heartless person, as if forming a new self to adapt to this extreme environment. This new self allowed evil and cruel instincts to erupt. But at the same time, he maintained his old self. For example, sometimes smiling, being gentle with children. Seemingly contradictory, but tightly connected. The coexistence of two selves created the image of the angel of death. What maintained these two selves was loyalty to Nazi ideology. These two selves could be projected onto any individual, every soldier, everyone indoctrinated with extremist ideology, not necessarily on the battlefield, but also in special environments. I think this is something today's society needs to be vigilant about. Alright, that's it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, please remember to like and subscribe. Follow the channel so you don't get lost. See you next time. Goodbye.